Hi, this is Joe from Mapamundi, and in today's lesson I wanted to talk about something a little bit more general than what I've been talking about lately. Lately I've been doing comparisons of Romance grammar, mostly Spanish and Portuguese and Italian, and in today's lesson I'd actually like to talk about days of the week, not just in Romance languages, but in Celtic languages and Germanic languages as well. When it comes to days of the week in Romance languages and Celtic languages and to some extent Germanic languages, we have a lot to owe to the Roman gods. As you know, a lot of the planets that we have are named after Roman gods. So the Roman gods and the planets, they are the ones that kind of dictated in the Roman tradition what the days of the week were going to be. So if we look at the Roman gods, we can see the examples that are given are, we have Luna, which is moon. We have Mars, who is the god of war, Ares in Greek. We have Mercury, who would be Hermes in Greek. We have Jove, which is another name for Jupiter, which would be Zeus in Greek. We have Venus, which would be Aphrodite in Greek. And we have Saturn, which would be Kronos in Greek, who is the father of the gods. He's one of the original Titans, I believe. The word for Sunday in the Romance languages, in a pre-Christian tradition, it comes from sol, the word for sun in Latin, and after the advent of Christianity in the Roman culture and in the Roman-speaking world, there's a new name that comes from the word Dominicus, which means Lord or God. So we can see in the Romance languages that all of the Romance languages, I think with the exception of Portuguese and maybe some languages like Mirandese, they all take their names directly from the Latin words that go with the god in question, except for Sunday, of course, which comes from the Christian god. So if we look at a language like Italian, right, we have Domenica, Lunedì, Martedì, Mercoledì, Giovedì, Venerdì, and Sabato. And the only language, as I said before, that doesn't fit this kind of pattern is Portuguese. The reason why is because they innovated a new system. We can see in Old Portuguese that there is this kind of corresponding system where they base their days of the week off of the gods. But in modern Portuguese, we have a different way where sábado and domingo, those words, the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, they have not changed, but the rest of the days that we have, and they've come from a number system where the day after Sunday I have segunda-feira, which means, you know, second day, second festival after Sunday. I have terça-feira, quarta-feira, quinta-feira, and sexta-feira, which mean, you know, third day, fourth day, fifth day, sixth day. And that comes from this kind of religious tradition of having feast days during the Easter season, which we'll also see in some other branches as well, that Christianity does have a kind of noticeable effect on the days of the week from how they were in their original forms. The Celtic languages also take their inspiration from the same Roman gods as the Romance languages do. Even though I don't think that many of them believed in those Roman gods, the kind of system that they kind of took that from the Roman system and just kind of interpreted it into their own language. The only languages that we see not doing that to such a high extent are the Gaelic languages, Irish Gaelic and Scottish Gaelic. But the other languages, Welsh, Cornish, Manx, we can see them taking their system and kind of as a translation of the Roman system. So if you remember the gods in question, we have the sun in the pre-Christian tradition, we have Luna, we have Mars, we have Mercurius, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturnus. So if I look at a language like Welsh, which does take their days directly from the Roman tradition, I have Dydd Sul, Dydd Llun, Dydd Mawrth, Dydd Mercher, Dydd Iau, Dydd Gwener, and Dydd Sadwrn. So you can see how those words, they come directly from the Roman gods, right? Dydd Sadwrn comes from Saturn, Dydd Mercher comes from Mercury, Dydd Mawrth comes from Mars, right? So it's not too much of a stretch to see how those words come from the Roman gods. In Irish Gaelic and Scottish Gaelic, we can see that there was a kind of shifting where Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, they're from the same derivatives as Romance languages, right? We have the Lord's Day, Moon Day, Mars Day, J Downey, J Luin, J March. But then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we see that they come up with new words for them that are also based off of kind of Christian traditions, where Mercury in Irish is J Cédín, which means the first day of fasting. We have Giardín in Thursday, which means the day between fasting. And for Friday we have Jehinia, which means the fasting day. Saturday doesn't change in Irish, it's J Sahern, which means, you know, the day of Saturn. So Saturn is actually the god who's had the most kind of staying power in a majority of the languages. He hasn't been changed in the Celtic languages, and when we get to Germanic languages, we'll see he stays there as well. Now, the Germanic system, what it does is it takes those Roman gods and it actually tries to find the closest equivalent in the Germanic pantheon, and it kind of translates the days of the week into that thing, right? So for example, if we see that lunes or lunedi or dies lunae comes from the word for moon, the word for Monday in most Germanic languages, we have the day of the moon, right? Where we had Mars for Tuesday, we have Tyr for Germanic languages, who they were both the god of war. Where we had Mercury for Wednesday. In Germanic languages we have Odin. I don't think that those two gods are like really too equivalent, but they are both kind of like wandering gods who give messages to people. So that could be why they kind of were chosen. Or perhaps Odin was a very relevant god, so they wanted to give him a day. For Thursday I have Thor. Thor is the god of thunder, just like Zeus was, you know, the god of thunder. For Friday I have Freya, who is the god of love, goddess of love, just like Venus is the goddess of love. And then in the Germanic languages, I have two derivatives for Saturday. I have Saturn's Day, and I also have one that has to come from washing, which I believe there was probably some kind of religious or cultural tradition to wash once a week, and they chose this day to do their washing. So if you're a native speaker of English, you can see that the words Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that we have Sunday, day of the sun, Moon Day, day of Tyr, day of Odin, day of Thor, day of Freya, and Saturn's Day, right? If we look at German, we can see that there are a couple innovations. For example, there was an old word for Wednesday that did have something to do with Odin, but now in modern German the word is Mittwoch, which means midweek, right? And for Saturday, we have two words in German based on the region you're in. We have Sonnabend, which means the evening before Sunday, and we have Samstag, which means Sabbath. And we can see in the Romance languages as well that the words for Saturday, they come from Sabbath as well, where I have Sabado, Sabato, Sabadu, okay? Dutch is the same as English in that the words all come from the same Germanic gods, and Saturday comes from Saturn. Dutch and English are very similar languages. They say that Dutch is the most similarly related language to English if you're discounting Scots as a language, which I do not like to discount Scots, but it doesn't have as much kind of recognition across the world as Dutch does. If we look at the languages that come from Norse, Icelandic, Norwegian, Danish, Swedish, we can see that in Norwegian, Danish, and Swedish, the roots of the words are pretty much all the same as English and Dutch. We just see that Saturday comes from, again, that washing day, so we have a word like lørdag in Norwegian, which means washing day. But besides that, we have Sondag, Mandag, Tirsdag, Onsdag, Torsdag, Fredag. So we can see how those come from the Germanic gods in a very easy way, and a lot of those days of the week, they sound pretty similar to English. So in Icelandic, we can see that Sunday and Monday, they come from the same place as the other Germanic languages. You have Sunnudagur and Mannudagur, which come from sun and moon. And we can see that Saturday is Leirdagur, which comes from washing day again. But Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, they have different meanings, where I have Thriudagur, which means the third day. I have Miðvikudagur, which means midweek, I have Fimtudagur, which means the 5th day, and I have Fyrstudagur, which means the day of fasting, which we could see in Irish as well, actually had the same meaning, Friday. So that obviously comes from a kind of Christian tradition of the fasting habits at that time. So this is something that I find very interesting. I'm somebody that really likes mythology. I love Roman and Greek mythology, and I love Germanic mythology as well. And I think it's really interesting how a lot of people that speak English as native speakers, they don't notice the kind of connection between the Norse gods, who I think are pretty ingrained in pop culture now, thanks to movies like Thor Ragnarok and God of War and the Vikings show. And they don't really notice these connections until you kind of spot out from them, oh, they're like Thursday is Thor's day, Wednesday is Odin's day. And the same thing in the Romance languages that I find it very interesting, that learners of Romance languages, they oftentimes, even if they love Greek or Roman mythology, which I think is probably a little bit more prevalently taught in schools, we tend to learn Greek and Roman mythology, I think, a bit more than Germanic mythology. Even they don't really notice sometimes that these words for days of the week in the Romance languages come from these Roman gods. I find it very interesting that days of the week were something that were invented somewhat later when you consider the history of how long mankind has been on this planet. And if you consider really that if you're living in agrarian society without any kind of like established religion, and really the seasons are the only things that are relevant to your life, you don't really need a day of the week unless you have a kind of culture that's complex enough to have these kinds of traditions that occur on set times, or a worship of a deity that is set on a fixed day. So it makes sense that the Germanic people wouldn't have a day of the week until they kind of adopted one from the Roman tradition, that they didn't innovate their own words for days of the week, but that they kind of adopted them from a Roman tradition. So I hope you found this video interesting, and for more videos about historical linguistics, be sure to subscribe to my channel, Mapa Mundi Languages, for a new video coming out every Friday.